Chapter 2, The Shadow's Threat. Samir sat in the dimly lit study of his family's sprawling mansion, a place that should have been filled with warmth and memories but instead felt cold, as though the very walls harbored secrets too dark to unveil. His stepfather, Arvind, stood across from him, a towering figure of authority and manipulation. The tension in the room was palpable, and Samir's chest tightened with each passing second, waiting for the next venomous word to escape his stepfather's lips. "You think you can defy me, Samir?" Arvind's voice was low, but the threat in it was unmistakable. His sharp eyes, gleaming with malice, fixed on Samir like a predator ready to strike. "You think you can just carry on with that woman, that Riya? You're a fool if you think I'll let that happen." Samir remained silent, his jaw clenched, his heart racing. He wanted to defend Riya, to tell his stepfather that she wasn't just any woman. She was his light, his anchor in a world drowning in deceit and darkness. But every time he opened his mouth, the weight of the threats Arvind had already made crushed his words. He had to be careful. One wrong move, and he knew the consequences would be devastating. "Listen to me, Samir." Arvind stepped closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "If you don't let her go, if you don't cut her out of your life completely, I will make sure she suffers. I'll destroy her, bit by bit, until there's nothing left of the woman you think you love." Samir's stomach churned, his mind racing. Arvind wasn't bluffing. He never did. For years, Samir had watched him crush anyone who dared to oppose him, whether it was in business or personal matters. He had a network of connections, politicians, businessmen, even law enforcement, that allowed him to manipulate the world around him with terrifying ease. And now, all of that power was being aimed at Riya. Arvind continued, his words like poison. "Do you really think you can protect her from me? Do you think you can shield her from what's coming?" He scoffed, a cruel smirk curling on his lips. "I'll make sure she never works again. Every job she tries to get, every opportunity she seeks, I'll crush it. She'll be blacklisted in every industry." Samir's heart ached as he imagined Riya struggling, her dreams shattered by the very man standing in front of him. But Arvind wasn't finished. "And that's just the beginning," Arvind sneered, leaning in closer, his voice like ice. "You remember what I did to those who crossed me before? I'll do the same to her. I'll ruin her reputation, make sure everyone sees her as nothing more than a gold-digging whore who tried to manipulate you. I'll spread lies about her, destroy her name, turn her into a pariah. No one will ever want to associate with her again." Samir's hands balled into fists, trembling with anger. But it wasn't just anger, it was fear. Fear for Riya, for the life she would lose if Arvind followed through with his threats. He could see it all so clearly, her being ostracized, humiliated, and left with nothing. She didn't deserve any of this. She had done nothing wrong, but that wouldn't matter to Arvind. All that mattered was his control, his dominance over Samir and his life. "And if you think for 1 second that I'll stop there, you're gravely mistaken," Arvind continued, his voice growing darker. "I have contacts in the legal world, people who owe me favors. I can have her framed for anything I choose. Fraud, embezzlement, hell, even something as disgusting as human trafficking. You want to see her in jail? You want to see her spend the rest of her life rotting in a cell for crimes she didn't commit? Because that's what will happen if you don't cut her loose." Samir felt the air leave his lungs, the weight of Arvind's words suffocating him. He wanted to scream, to shout, to tell Arvind that he wouldn't allow any of this to happen, but he knew he was trapped. Arvind's reach was long, his power immense. Samir had always known that his stepfather was ruthless, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. "She's already done enough damage," Arvind spat, his eyes narrowing. "She uncovered things that weren't hers to know. My associates are furious, and we had to frame her for the fraud she caught. You think I'll let her walk away unscathed after that? If you don't let her go, I'll see to it that she's buried so deep in legal battles, she'll never see the light of day. The fraud. Samir knew what Arvind was talking about. Riya had stumbled upon the management's embezzlement and illegal dealings. The very people Samir had trusted were stealing from him, using his name and his business as a cover for their crimes. But when Riya had tried to expose it, they turned the tables on her, accusing her of honey-trapping Samir, framing her as the villain. And now, Arvind was threatening to make it worse, to ruin her life completely. You have a choice, Samir, Arvind's voice broke through his thoughts, cold and calculating. Either you cut her out of your life forever, or you'll watch as I dismantle everything she is, piece by piece. Her career, her freedom, her dignity, it'll all be gone. And it'll be because you were too weak to do what needed to be done. Samir's chest felt like it was being crushed under the weight of the decision. He knew what Arvind was capable of. If he didn't stop talking to Riya, if he didn't let her go, Arvind would follow through with every threat. He would destroy Riya's life in ways that Samir couldn't protect her from. And so, with a heart heavy with despair, Samir nodded slowly, his voice barely a whisper. I'll stop. Arvind's smirk grew, satisfied with his victory. Good. You're finally learning. He turned and walked away, leaving Samir standing alone in the dark, the weight of his decision crushing him. Every part of him screamed to fight, to run to Riya, to protect her from the evil that surrounded her. But deep down, he knew he couldn't. Not without making things worse. That night, as Samir sat in his empty office, he opened his phone once more and stared at the unsent messages to Riya. His fingers hovered over the screen, aching to reach out to her, to tell her everything, to warn her. But in the end, he simply closed his phone and bowed his head in defeat. He wasn't staying away because he didn't love her. He was staying away because he loved her too much to see her destroyed. And yet, in that silence, Samir felt a piece of his heart die. What should Samir do next? Should he risk everything to save Riya, or is staying away the only way to protect her from Arvind's terrifying reach? Can Riya uncover the full truth before it's too late? With so many forces against her, can Riya find a way to defend herself and reveal the embezzlement scheme that Arvind is hiding? What would you do if you were in Samir's position? If your loved one's life and future were in danger because of someone powerful, would you stay and fight or sacrifice your happiness for their safety? How far will Arvind go to maintain control? We've seen Arvind's cruelty and power, but do you think he's capable of even darker moves to keep Samir under his control? Will Samir's silence really protect Riya, or will it make things worse? Is there a chance that by stepping away, Samir might push Riya into even greater danger without him knowing? What secrets is Arvind hiding, and how will they unravel? What more could Arvind be covering up? Could exposing his secrets bring him down, or will it endanger everyone involved? Will Samir find the strength to confront his stepfather? Can Samir overcome the fear of Arvind and finally stand up to him, or will he remain trapped under his influence? How will Riya react to Samir's sudden distance? How do you think Riya will handle Samir pulling away from her without any explanation? Will she give up, or will she keep fighting for the truth? What role will Arvind's associates play in the next chapter? How deep does Arvind's corruption run, and how dangerous are his allies? Could they become the next threat to Samir and Riya? Is there anyone Samir can trust to help him fight back? Samir feels isolated, but could there be someone within his circle who can help him take down Arvind and protect Riya? See you again with Chapter 3, Silent Whispers of Love.